In the late 1940s and the early 1950s, India had an extremely strong football team. They were known as the Brazil of Asia. In today's episode, I want to tell you about that really tense match when India scored its first international goal. They were playing against France and they were playing barefoot. I want to tell you about some of the players that did these amazing things. And finally, I want to tell you about the time India was actually invited to play FIFA World Cup but did not end up going. So the Indian team shows up in London for the 1948 Olympics, and people are like, what's going on? How come these guys are playing without boots? Now, there are a number of reasons that the Indians were playing without boots. The country had just won independence and they didn't have money to do things like send people with boots. Many of the players had grown up on fields that had softened due to the hard monsoon rains. Players like the Indian captain Talimeren Ao, who was from the Ao tribe in Nagaland, he didn't even have money to buy a soccer ball. He put together balls with tape and he grew up playing barefoot with these makeshift balls. So when the Indian team showed up against France, there were a lot of surprise faces. Then the game started, and for the first 29 minutes, India and France really went back and forth against each other, and the game was incredibly evenly matched. I'm going to say these words again. India and France played a game of football where they were evenly matched. Then in the 29th minute, Rene Corbin scored a goal. Did the Indians give up? No. They kept launching attack after attack. Finally, they won a penalty. Then the great Sailen Manna, who had this amazing kick, and he was also a master of the bicycle kick, strode up to take the penalty. Now, this Sailen Manna had such a powerful foot that after the games, when they won the adulation of the British public, and King George VI invited him to Buckingham Palace, he actually lifted his leg and said, "Hey, is your leg made of metal?" It was not. But Sailen Manna strode up to take the kick, and he had a really powerful kick. Unfortunately, this kick went over the goal. Did the Indians give up? No. They launched attack after attack, and in the second half, the famous Ahmad Khan made this beautiful pass to Sarangapani Raman, and this guy was one hell of a shooter, and he put the ball straight in the net. 1-1 India-France. I'm going to say the words again. 1-1 India-France. In one of the attacks, the Indian attackers were fouled inside the box, and the referee had no hesitation in awarding a penalty. And this time, Mahabir Prasad went to take the penalty. Now, football is a game of the foot, but it's also a game of the mind. And Mahabir Prasad remembered what Sailen Manna had done in the first half. He had overshot the ball. So this time, he shot the ball too timidly and it went straight to the goalkeeper. So it was still 1-1. And the Indians continued to match the French without boots. How was this happening, you ask? Well, think of cricket. When the ball comes really fast, the Indians are masters of using their wrist and using the speed of the ball to send it to the fence. The same thing was happening in football here. In the 89th minute, René Persilon, against the run of play, scored a goal for France, and the Indian hearts were broken. So India lost this game to France very narrowly, but they had captured the British hearts. After the game, Talimeren Ao, the Indian captain, was asked by the British press, "Hey, how come you guys are playing barefoot?" And he said, "It's football, so we play with our feet. It's not bootball." Now, Talimeren Ao was also very clever. Talimeren Ao was a master of giving the quick response. When he was a doctor in the 1970s and there was a rebellion in Nagaland, he treated many of the rebels who had gone underground. And the press asked him, "Hey, Talimeren, why are you doing this?" And he said, "When I took my oath, I took an oath to treat people who were overground and underground." Now the Indian soccer team was invited to play in Holland after this, where they defeated the famous Ajax Amsterdam team 5-1. In that tournament, an English quote said, "If the Indians were to defeat my team, I'll eat my own hat." And they actually beat his team. And in the press conference, somebody asked Talimeren a question and he said, "Hey, you know what? I'm going to speak after this guy eats his own hat." Then in 1952, the Indians received an invitation to attend. Now, the All India Football Federation said, "You know what? We don't have the money." But the boards of Mysore, Maharashtra, and Bengal saying, "No problem. 100,000 rupees, we got it. We'll cover the costs." And as it is normal with the All India Football Federation, things were up in the air. Then 10 days before the Indian team was set to depart, they issued a press release saying, "We didn't have time to prepare travel and other stuff like that, so we are not going." Recently, The famous player Baichung Bhatia said more recently the reason they didn't want to send the Indian team is because at that time the Olympics were more famous than the World Cup, and they were scared because the team was so good they would start winning everything in sight and lose their amateur status. This is a great example of short term thinking by the All India Football Federation. If they had sent a team to this World Cup, who knows what would have happened? Maybe India would have done really well. And maybe, just like in 1983, when the love of cricket was sparked among school kids across the country, the same thing could have happened to football. But we will never know because of the All India Football Federation that seems never to get its act together. So, the Indian football team of this era is a great example of Indians doing well, not because of the government, but despite the government. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you're interested in Indian history, mythology, Buddhism, stuff like that, please consider subscribing for this channel. I hope you have a great week and enjoy the next 7 days that lie ahead. Bye.